In this session, we are going to discuss the complete kinematics of SCARA robot. So we'll start with the forward kinematics model. Then later on, we'll develop the inverse kinematic solution of the SCARA robot. As we know, SCARA robot is used in the industry, especially for pick and place operations. It is being used in automobile industry, food industry, or even in the computer chips where very small chips needs to be inserted from one place to another place. So it is predominantly being used for pick and place operations. So we have this line diagram of the robot. First of all, we need to understand what are the degrees of freedom of this robot. So first degree of freedom is about this, which is called as the theta 1 angle. So then you have the second joint over here. This is also theta 2, and then there is a joint over here about which Z3 moment, the vertical D3 axis prismatic joint, and then finally you have this theta 4 about which the final tool can roll. So these are the 4 degrees of freedom of this SCARA robot. So first of all, we need to understand how to do the frame assignment. We have mentioned that we need to draw in finite lines. So this is the first line passing through theta 1, second line passing through theta 2, and the final line which is passing through theta 3, or you can say joint 3 and joint 4 axis. So these are the infinite lines. So first of all, we need to understand, like, this is the location of Z1 axis, Z2 axis, and finally you have Z3 and Z4 axis infinite line. So first of all, we need to mark the origin of first frame. So we know that Z1, Z2 axis are parallel and there is a common perpendicular. So there are infinite perpendiculars possible. Let's take the perpendicular along the link length. This is the link length. So this is the direction of this perpendicular, and where this perpendicular intersect, so we have this direction of x1. So this is our location of frame 1. So let's say this is Z1 and this is the direction of x1. So then you have Z2 because it's assembly robot, so Z2 direction is downwards. So then you have Z3 direction and Z4 direction, all directions are downwards in this because it has to do the assembly operation. So the direction of Z2 can be taken upward or downwards, so let's take it downwards in this case. So next, the location of Z2. So again you can see Z2, Z3 are parallel, so there is a common perpendicular, so this is the location of Z2, and direction of Z3 frame. The reason being because this is a prismatic joint and this frame will move up and down because this D3 is a variable. So when D3 is 0, so the location of this frame 3 will come eventually at this point. So as D3 keeps on increasing, the frame will go down because the frame is rigidly attached to the prismatic joint. So this is the location of frame 3, and frame 4 is also attached on the same position because there is a roll axis about the same line. So the Z4 direction is also over there. So we have Z3, Z4 marked downwards. And finally we have the Z5 axis, which is at the tool tip, is also marked downward. So after locating the origins and Z direction, we can now assign the directions of X. So x1 we have already identified because it's the common perpendicular between Z1 and Z2. So same is with x2 because it's a common perpendicular between Z2 and Z3, both are parallel. So x2 is in this direction. Same is with the x3, but here x3, Z3 and Z4 are intersecting because they are passing through the same line. So this is the plane perpendicular to Z3, Z4, and the direction of x4 is also same because Z4 and Z5 are intersecting, passing through the same line. So x4 has to be in a plane perpendicular to Z4, Z5. So this is x4, and for convenience we can take x5 in the same direction as the last frame in order to make the last angle as 0. So these are the frame assignments, and we can also assign the universal frame. Let's take it as the base location. So this is my direction of x0, this is my direction of y0, and finally we have z0. And we can also decide about the y-axis. So the first y-axis is y1. So we can curl our fingers from z to x. You can see z to x, the inward direction will be the direction of y1. Now comes to the next frame 2. So again, if you curl your finger from z2 to x2, the thumb is upwards, which means it's out of the plane of the paper. So this is the direction of y2. Similarly, we have the direction of y3, y4, and finally same thing is the direction of y5. So this is how all the frames are being assigned. So after carefully assigning all the frames, the next step is we need to develop the DH parameter table. So this is the definition of all the 4 parameters. So this is the DH parameter table. It is always recommendable to fill the table column wise because then we will set up one parameter in the mind and we need not to shuffle between different parameters. So let's take the first parameter as the link length. So we have ai minus 1. So the first entry says a0 which is z0 to z1 along xi minus 1. So you can say this is x0, we have x1, so x0 to x1 along z0 we have d1. So this is the first link parameter. Other way around, let's recalculate again. It's z0 to z1, so this is z0, this is z1, so both are in the same line, so z0 to z1 along x0, so it's 0. So then we have z1 to z2 along x1 we have, so here is z1, here is z2, along x1 we have a1, then z2 to z3 along x2 we have a2, then z3 to z4 both are coincident, so it's 0, and then z4 to z5 again both are in the same line. So this is the first column. Now next comes the link twist angle. So again we have z0 to z1 along x0, so you can see z0 and z1 are in the same direction, so angle is 0. So then we have z1 to z2 along x1, so here you can see z1 is upwards, z2 is downwards, so there is an angle of 180 degrees. So 180 degree, this is special case, you can take it a positive angle or negative angle, clockwise or counterclockwise, because both sine for 180 or minus 180 is 0 and cos will remain the same. So it's you can mark pi. So then z2 to z3 angle is 0 because all the z's are downwards, z3 to z4 is 0, z4 to z5 is 0. So all the remaining angles between different z-axes are 0. Next comes the third column, which is called as the joint distance or joint offset di. So this di is written over here. So it's the distance from x. So let's say talk about d1. It's the distance from x0 to x1 along z1. So here you can see x0 is this, x1 is this, x0 to x1 along z1. So we have d1. So then we have d2, which is the distance from x1 to x2. So x1 and x2 are in the same line, so it's 0. Then you have d3, which is the distance from x2 to x3 along z3. So we have this x2, this is x3, this is d3, and we know this is a prismatic joint. This d3 will keep on varying, so we'll write always d3 variable. It's not a fixed distance, it keeps on varying depending upon the location of prismatic joint at that particular instant. So then you have x3 to x4, both are aligned, so this is 0, and then you have x4 to x5 along z5, so we have x4 over here, x5 over here. This is the distance green, so which is marked as d5. So this is the distance d5. Next column, the joint angle. So joint angle, we know the first angle is theta 1, second angle is theta 2, third angle is a fixed one, 0, the last angle is theta 3, and there is no angle at the last. And now we have to calculate the home position, that what are these theta angles at the current configuration where the robot is standing now. There you can see the home position. If you see the angle theta 1 is the angle from x0 to x1 along z1, so angle is 0. Again x1 and x2 are in the same direction, angle is 0. x2, x3 same angle is 0. x3, x4 are same angle 0. So all angles are 0, and this is not a variable. So this is a typical DH parameter table for the SCARA robot at this particular config. This will be calculated in the next slide. So this is the frame assignment, and this is all the parameters which we have calculated in the previous slide. Let's see SCARA robot forward kinematics. This is the first transformation, second transformation, third transformation, fourth transformation, fifth transformation, and if we multiply all them in a sequence like this way, so this is the final answer we have after multiplying all this, where these terms like S1 represents sine theta 1, S1 minus 2 represents sine theta 1 minus theta 2, and C1 minus 2 minus 4 represents cos of theta 1 minus theta 2 minus theta 4. Now we'll assume that this matrix is given to us. So let's see. Now this is a set of nonlinear equations. We are now completed the forward kinematics and now moved to the inverse kinematics part. So where we are saying now that this matrix is given to us now, and we have to find out the joint variables, and whatever are the joint variables, let's say. So joint variables are theta 1, theta 2, d3 and theta 4. These are the joint variables, which represents, because the first joint is rotational, second joint is rotational, the third joint is prismatic, and the fourth joint is rotational. So that's a RRPR robot. That's why the corresponding variables are like this. So now we can write this. Let's say if the final transformation matrix is given to us, this is called as the RM matrix. Let's say if this is given to like this, like these numbers. So we have only these 5 equations which are marked in red color: the x, y, and z position, and this cos phi and this sin phi. These are the 5 equations we have, and we have to solve these 4 variables: theta 1, theta 2, d3, and theta 4. So where sin phi represents, you compare this sin phi with the corresponding entry over here. So cos phi is c1 minus 2 minus 4, which represents cos of theta 1 minus theta 2 minus theta 4. And then x, this x represents over here, which is a1 c1 plus a2 c1 minus 2, and in expanded form it is written as a1 cos of theta 1 plus a2 cos of theta 1 minus theta 2. Then comes y. Similarly, we have y equal to a1 s1 plus a2 s1 minus 2, which in the expanded form can be written as a1 sin theta 1 plus a2 sin theta 1 minus theta 2. And finally we have the z, and z is like the third entry, which represents the coordinate of region of the tip frame with respect to the base frame. So this is the z coordinate. So after having these 5 nonlinear equations, we need to calculate all the 4 variables in a proper manner. So let's go to the first joint, which is called as the elbow joint, or we can say theta 2. So we'll square and add the equations, which are the first 2 equations regarding x and y. So we'll x square plus y square, which will give you this equation. The first bracket corresponds to x and the second bracket corresponds to y, and we can now expand them. So the first term, a1 square c1 square plus a2 square c1 minus 2 square plus 2a1 a2 c1 minus 2, correspondingly the next entry for the signs. And then we can collect the terms. A1 square, so then we have cos square plus sin square theta 1, that becomes 1. Then this cos square plus sin square becomes 1 also, and this we can apply the sin CD formula. So a1 square plus a2 square plus 2a1 a2 cos of theta 1 minus theta 1 minus 2. This is how we can write the formula, and eventually this will be C2 cos of theta 2. And then from here we can calculate the C2 angle, which is equal to x square plus y square minus a1 square minus a2 square divided by 2a1 a2. And theta 2, we can write the arc cosine of x square plus y square minus a1 square minus a2 square 2a1 a2. So next comes the base joint. So base joint is the theta 1. So we are now going to calculate the value of theta 1. So again we'll consider the equation of x and y. So x we know can be written like this way, and you see that x is a function of basically theta 1 theta 2. It is a function of theta 1 theta 2, rest all are variables, and theta 2 is now already we have calculated, so it basically now becomes a function of theta 1 only. So we'll expand this and we'll reorient the manner so that it becomes only a function of theta 1. So let's try to see. So in the expanded form, we can write this and we can collect the terms a1 plus a2 cos of theta 2 and a2 sin theta 2. So whatever is there inside the bracket, that is known to us because theta 2 is known to us, and whatever is outside the bracket, that's a function of theta 1 only. Similarly, we can do it for the y coordinate, and accordingly we can expand the term, collect the coefficients, mark it, anything inside the bracket is with respect to theta 2, and you can see this is the short form. So now we can arrange these equations, so like this in this manner, and then we can solve it using 2 methods. The first method is Cramer's rule. So Cramer's rule, we know that's a1x plus b1y equal to c1. Accordingly the first equation is like similar, and then you have a2x plus b2y equal to c2, and accordingly we have the second equation of y. And we know that using Cramer's rule we can solve this x like this way, and accordingly we can solve x is corresponding to c1 over here, so we can solve for c1. And similarly we have y according to the Cramer's rule can be given like this way. Now similarly we can calculate for s1, which is given like this. So after calculating this cos and sine of theta 1, we can calculate the arc tangent to function using this method. So this is the method 1 using Cramer's rule, which is applicable to maybe smaller number of variables. If the number of variables increase, or number of degrees of freedom of the robot will also increase. So then we can prefer this matrix method. So where we know this, we can write this in the form of a matrix like this way: a1 b1 a2 b2. This is the coefficient matrix, this is the number of unknowns, unknown vector, this is the known quantities c1 c2, and this we know can be written in the standard form like ax equal to b, and here x is the unknown which we can calculate by taking the inverse. So well, a inverse we know this is written like this way, and after calculating the a inverse, we will pre-multiply both sides with respect to a inverse. So a inverse into a we know is identity matrix. So then we can find out the final solution. So we'll follow the similar steps. The x and y vector over here in this equation is c1 s1, and we can formulate this a matrix, take the inverse and multiply it with the b. This is our b, and calculate the c1 as this and s1 as this terms, and you can see this that using method 1 or method 2 both the answers will remain the same. So finally we have theta 1, and then we have the third joint variable, which is the d3 vertical extension joint. This is the prismatic joint, and this can be calculated easily because we know the third entry of the last column is z, which is given as d1 minus d3 minus d4, and d1 and d4 are already known to us. So simply d3 can be written as d1 minus d4 minus z, and even z is also known to us. So d3 can be calculated very easily. And finally we have the tool roll joint. So this is regarding the theta 4, and theta 4 can be calculated as from here, because we know theta 1 minus 2 minus 4 is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 minus theta 4, and this is known to us. So theta 4 can be written as, we'll take the entries to respective sides. So theta 1 minus theta 2 minus theta of 1 minus 2 minus 4. So this will give you the final theta. So that completes our all the set of 4 variables. Theta 1, theta 2, d3 and theta 4 are known to us. So I'll thanks Arnav once to help in making this PPT. Thank you.